Hey, hey, hey! Back again with another show for you guys. How is everyone doing? It's Thursday. What is this? We've done a show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday again. Can't be bad. I know there is a few shows going right now, so it's a busy time slot. But I do hope to get a few people popping in and saying hello. Currently, we've got Steve in the house. We've got Ian Adams, who says, "Hey up, fella." Yeah. Rachie. 0000. Nice to see you in. I watched your video actually, very interesting. She's got one video up and very educated flat earther there. Highly recommend people going over and having a listen themselves. Flat for life. Hey, hope everything is well, Ranty bro. Cheers mate. Thanks for that. Anthony Burrows, Bandsaw Bandit. How's it going, mate? We had a bit of a chat after the after show last night. I stayed up late last night listening to you and Pete banging heads. Maybe you can pop on and have a chat. I actually enjoyed listening to your side of the story, actually, about how you came a flat earther, so very interesting. Alexander Lightwater, nice to see you in. Bill G says, I hunts werewolves for sport. Indeed. Yes, I do. Unfortunately, there is no werewolves to hunt round here, so I haven't, hunted one ever, but you could imagine that I do. YouTube, nice to see you in, and Mike Dornan, SE Montreal. How's it going, my friend? Truth smacking activist on the corner. Nice to see you in. NZ. Indeed, this is where it is at. We have Mark Collard's in as well. We've got Balanced Truth and they_hey. George Shan, Miko Antonan, I see you in. Hell and Degenerates. We actually commented on the same video today. I actually saw that you'd left some comments on a video that was put out. Within the past 24 hours, it was another streamer to atheist guys. And you left a comment and I left a comment. I actually challenged them to appear on this show. So let's see whether or not they've got the balls, because apparently there is reams and reams of glow proof. So I asked them to just bring one, see if they can actually turn up, see if they've got the balls to do that. We shall see. Anyway, the invitation's out there. So nice to see all of you guys in. If anybody feels like they want to support the show financially in any way, shape or form, there are links in the description. You can have a quick look, or you can click the membership button. I do like members. They are the green guys in the chat. Ali B's one, Helen Degenerates is one. I also have a Patreon, PayPal, the usual stuff. And if you want to, head on over, support me that way if you want. Keep the show on the road, so to speak. Oh, and don't forget to smash the super chat. That's always important. I like to see your super chats coming so I can shout out your comments. Right, let's bring in some of the of the people that are in the show channel right now. We have F Evangelist, we have Aaron Moorfeld, and we have Jimbo. How are you guys doing? Ooh, there we go. Try that again.
That's a good, Ranty. How are you?
Right, okay. I had to just adjust your volume now. It was pretty low. All good.
To be honest, I'm trying to speak. I'm trying to speak a bit more quietly, because when I've listened back, it feels like I'm shouting at everybody, and I'm not. So I'm just trying to speak a bit more quietly.
No, it's just tricky trying to balance the levels, because if you come in and you're just talking really low for a long time, and then all of a sudden you're getting a heated argument with someone, then yeah, some people do that.
My microphone is a bit like a whiskey dicky. If I move my head too fast, it pulls away from my mouth, so it kind of like goes louder and softer. But if it does sound like I'm yelling sometimes, I am.
Yeah.
You are. A whiskey dicky. What's a whiskey dicky?
Yeah, I was going to ask that, Jimbo. What's a
whiskey dicky? A little imagination. Well, when you drink and the will is there, but the actual output and performance isn't.
Oh,
soft, hard,
yeah,
whiskey dicky.
Gotcha.
I thought that's one of Pete. That would be something Pete Shea would normally say.
Yeah.
I could expect that from him. Right, listen, I want to ask the audience. I'm going to leave my mic open because there was a comment yesterday saying after the show that leaving the gate open, you get some kind of feedback. I just want to know if that's still an issue, or whether or not that's been addressed. Just let me know.
If you start getting passionate and stuff, making noises like that, just mute, okay?
I'll try to keep a hold of it. I'll try to remember.
We'll warn you if we hear it.
Well, we were having quite an interesting discussion before we went live about the pyramids. Do you want to tell us some more about that, Jimbo? What your theories are with that?
Yeah, they had topless bars down. No, actually, my own belief is the pyramids, and the Egyptians who sort of took over credit for them is sort of it's a visual myth. It's not what it originally was. It's not what people think. So that's just my own opinion.
Nothing else to add. Did you saying about they found 100 mummies somewhere?
Yeah, they in Egypt they had this, I forget his name, but the head of Egyptology or whatever, and he was in charge of the pyramids at Giza, who could go in or go out, do whatever, basically. And apparently he was fired for fraud and all kinds of stuff. Well, with someone else in place now, they've, done other digs, and one of the digs they did in south of Giza, they found like 21, and they weren't pharaohs and stuff. They were basically more ordinary people, but they found about 18 perfectly preserved mummies and a channel dug beside them with all kinds of artifacts, gold, pottery, ceramic, just tons of stuff. I'm kind of sure that with the old guy who got fired still in charge, we wouldn't have even heard about this, So it just changes. But yeah, the pyramids, they were taken over by, quote, Egyptian culture, but they had nothing to do with the original structures there. And they came in after sand and whatever, blew over everything, covered it up, put down stakes and said, hey, this is ours now. People came by and said, hey, you make this? And they said, yeah, sure, I guess so. Yeah, we did. And they just been like that since.
It's interesting that you should say that, actually, because before the show started again, I was talking to Dr. John D. We had about a half an hour conversation a couple of hours ago now, and he said that he was listening back to the show last night, and what we were showing about the great circle, of the sun, and how it would have these seasons on a larger map. Just made sense to him. He said it just really, really makes sense. And then we were going back and forth talking about the ice ages and, the amount of ice sheet that was apparently over Britain. It's like 1,000 feet of ice sheet over Britain 10,000 years ago. It's hard to think of, that sort of depth, of ice and weight and stuff. And what could cause that? What could cause that amount of ice to actually to get that high? And then we started talking about the pyramids, and he's came up with the same thing. Said they were buried, and dug up. But what would happen if they were just frozen over for the longest time? They could have been frozen over for 20,000 years.
It's funny that you should mention that whatever over there was covered with 1,000 feet of ice, because they use that story here too, and I'm not necessarily buying it because it's too uniform. And again, no one was there. We know there was a flood, not an ice over necessarily. You see, which came first, the chicken or the egg? We have stories of great floods, not so much of a great ice age that took over and destroyed everything. Besides, the ice wouldn't necessarily have left all the mud and the way things are. So I'm not sure about the Laurentian ice sheet over here that caused this and that, and then it was hit by a meteor of all things and caused 1.5 million Carolina bays in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, all the way up to the Chesapeake. They're nice stories.
Yeah, and then you watch your David Attenborough series, and he'll be out in the middle of the Sahara Desert or the middle of the desert here in Australia, and he'll be saying that they've dug up 6 million years ago. This was actually a tropical rainforest, And I've been in the middle of the desert in Australia, and I just think, how the hell could this be a tropical rainforest? We're 2,000 kilometres from any water. But then this kind of changes all of that.
I think the whole Central Africa had water, rivers, everything. There, I think truly from about the mid 1500s or so, there was a continual warfare where they burned cities, took over. I don't know. It was a much different world. I just don't really understand it all, but we have a very constrained history, not one of millions of years, but one of hundreds to maybe a few thousands at best. But looking at the mud flood evidence that I see around just Ottawa, Montreal, wherever I've been, it's very recent. I mean, you look at the circa on these buildings in the 1600s and 1500s, that mud came after those buildings were built. So it wasn't thousands of years ago, ice and a freeze over, and more than 2,000 years ago. There may have been a flood 2,000 years ago, but I think the so-called Great Flood was a couple of hundred years ago at best.
That's a bold claim, that, Jimbo.
Yeah.
The evidence is there. Any city where you are, you look at these old buildings, and what used to be the ground floor is often covered over with window wells and a staircase up to what would have been the first floor, which is now the main floor, and underneath are designated basements now. All over here, every city, we have that. There's no reason for it. People don't dig, into a hill and put the foundations like we see around us. The buildings were built on level ground, and then the mud came. So that dates the mud.
But where did the? Yeah, I mean, I'm not averse to the idea of the mud flood, so to speak, because there is plenty of evidence. Sorry?
I'm just looking for maybe a citation or some sort of article that would substantiate these stories.
Well, Martin Leakdy and his channel, he looks into all that, doesn't he? So, he brings up quite a compelling case for these things, and there's plenty of photography that shows these buildings beneath, where you'd expect them to build.
The Colosseum in Rome, they're pretty modern pictures with it totally mudded over and people working to excavate it out of its mud. I don't get it.
To be honest, I've been there. I've seen it. It's true. They're digging, and I've actually thought that. I thought, how did these old, like when they're digging up the old Rome? I thought, well, how did it get buried? I mean, the city I'm in is not gradually disappearing under dirt. How did the old Rome get buried underneath dirt or mud it's dirt now, that they have to dig it out? How did that happen? Did everyone just forget to sweep up, or what?
No, that's a lot of mud, and it came from somewhere, and not just that one place, because that place was flooded around the same time everywhere else. It's not independent of that event. North America, we have structures and other stuff built like the Roman Colosseum, whatever. There's all, I think before, quote, so-called Columbus discovered America, there was nothing to discover. It was already here. It had cities, it had canals, it had everything. You look at Florida on the Google Earth, and you see all these straight lines between these marshes there that run for miles and have T intersections and stuff. Nature doesn't build with T intersections and places to jet boat down clean runways. They were canals and stuff, and they flooded over. Now there's a few feet of water and weeds over most of it. Some of the deeper.
There's somebody says tsunami. Now I know in Blackpool that there are buildings exactly like that in fact I've worked on them, with these basement windows beneath street level, that just make no sense, they do make no sense. even the house owners don't really know why they would build it like that, because they're just a flood risk. So maybe it was who knows? I mean, maybe there was a tsunami that we haven't been told. Some big event that happened. That's a possibility.
I watched a series on Revelation in the Bible, and there's nothing to do with Revelation, but in the chapter 2 or 3, Jesus writes 7 letters to 7 churches, and they were describing where these churches were and what the cities, Sardis and Ephesus and Laodicea. Now, I think it was Ephesus or one of the early ones was at the time of the writing apparently a fairly major trading port. But it's now 8 miles inland from the ocean. But it was a port, and that was only it's less than 2,000 years ago. So somewhere in that time, 8 miles of land has naturally come to be in what was actually an ocean port. So there's a lot of allegedly. So there's a lot of dirt moving around that we maybe aren't quite accounting for.
Or maybe there's a lot of water being melted. A lot of ice being melted that we're not told about. I mean, I don't know. I mean, your mind could drift quite a lot if you had this idea of this sun moving, and warming up different new areas all the time, melting the ice there, sometimes causing the water to rise, sometimes causing it to sink,
The tsunami idea is okay, except that the flooding was from high to low, and sort of a dry mud, if you will. Water has a different way of impacting and stuff. In whatever happened, the sides of buildings weren't hurt too much by the flooding, but the roofs of these buildings were often damaged, like even here at the Parliament and stuff. And the roofs were redesigned. A lot of them were domes, and they took away the domes and just put more generic type of roofing, But I don't think it was a flood of water per se that gave us all these window wells and staircases to new first floors,
What I'm going to do now is just show some of the images on screen for people to just have a quick look at. They're nowhere near as complete as what you'd expect, Martin Leakey to put up. I mean, if you ask for his catalogue of images, then yeah, I mean, he would, you'd be able to see it a lot clearer. So basically, you just type in mud flood and look for the images, and it's, a lot of it's new stuff that they take you to. It's not the old stuff. Where you see these houses buried. I would actually like to get Martin Leakey back on again, actually, to show you this. But there's definitely a lot of information out there that suggests that there was some kind of mud floodish type of event that covered up a lot of these buildings. But there's no record of it in the history books, not that I can find anyway.
And a lot of the places that had this mud flood are dry places. They don't have lakes, big rivers, anything else like that around. It's the same mud.
Yeah, so somewhat of an image here, I mean, you've got an image up here with, it looks like half of the doors below street level and looks like a couple of windows bricked up, it's obviously not the best image at all, but it just gives people an idea of what you're trying to say, that there's probably about between 6 and 12 foot of this mud that supposedly...
Oh, it varies everywhere in thickness. Like in New York City, you notice in movies and stuff, they have these traps in the sidewalks where they have little freight elevators that go down and come up. That's because there's a whole floor at least below the ground that got mudded over. All of New York.
Have to get Martin on and show us again. Show us what's what. But I like the idea of, I mean, we hear all the time about the ice caps are melting, then they're freezing up again, and then the freeze, and then they're melting up again. if there was a cycle that was going on that was doing this, and we're told that it's global warming and we've got to pay taxes for all that and what have you, and don't use these aerosols and all this kind of stuff, and the ozone layer's perforated. That seems to have healed, by the way, I think.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that, Ranty. It's fixed itself.
I look at the.
I also.
history-
I'm sorry, I'll just go quickly. Back in the late '80s, early '90s, when that, David Suzuki was rambling on about the ozone layer, I had a guy say to me once. He said, "Well, how come there's not a big hole in the ozone layer over New York, and another one over Mexico City, and another one over Tokyo, and another one over London? If it's all caused by exhaust gas and aerosol hairspray cans, because that's where. Why is the hole over the North and South Pole when there's nobody there?"
I'm gonna jump in real quick there. So every map or image that I've seen of the hole in the ozone layer has always been shown in Antarctica.
Where there's a lot of hairspray in cars. Yeah.
Right.
I haven't heard much about that since the '80s, honestly. When they
That's right. Late '80s, it just disappeared.
If you were to look right now and try and find some information on the hole in the ozone layer, it will always be over top of Antarctica.
Whatever happened to acid rain?
Find me something different, and I will be impressed.
Acid rain was supposed to kill everything, and it didn't. And then our carbon footprint with the other marketing team, who was it there, Gore, it's come out to basically marketing teams and groups using fear to get ahead.
So, yeah, World of Change, Antarctic ozone hole, and then underneath that, it's talking about the Antarctic ozone hole is an area of the Antarctic stratosphere. That's interesting. I was sure it wasn't over Antarctica way back when.
Could it be that they just can't figure out what's out there?
What if there wasn't supposed to be any there anyway?
I could swear it was over the North Pole as well, Ranty.
Yeah, I thought so, SC. I thought North and South Pole, and that's what this guy said to me. He said, why aren't the holes over the major cities where all the pollution is?
Never in any of my
and why would they be more dominant over the poles? Maybe they can't form or can't exist ozone around,
What I had explained to me was that ozone was formed when something like high intensities of UV came in contact with oxygen or something like that, and so O2 became O3, which is your ozone. So what they were saying was that as the sun, as winter and summer comes and goes, the ozone layer at both poles gets bigger and smaller as more sunlight becomes available to the upper atmosphere at the North and South Pole. But look, I don't know the science behind that. I don't know how you make ozone, but that's what he told me.
In a lab,
it was because of the. Sorry, Jimbo. Go ahead.
In a lab, you heat vanadium pentoxide and pass oxygen over it. Out the other end comes ozone. It can be made by static electricity too.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, this guy said to me, it's just cyclical. Sorry, go there, sir.
Go on, SC. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, weren't they saying it was stuff inside the spray cans and inside our refrigerant that was causing it? Remember all the scare when they changed all the chemicals over?
So-called CFCs.
Yeah, that's right, Jim. TFCs, yeah.
I had a business when I had a cool room at the time, which had a really large compressor motor on it, and the government here sent us a letter and said, unfortunately, your compressor is such a size that it contains too much of the whatever they are, CFCs or TFCs, that it is illegal. However, if you pay us $300 per year, we will grant you a license to hold such an amount of this dangerous substance. So it's just a big cash grab.
Yes. Here, I go to any of the old scrap yards with just hundreds of cars, and the air conditioning systems still have their CFCs leaking out, and they don't drain them. They don't do any extra work. They just, like batteries. You think they're going to drain the acid in the batteries? They don't. They don't do hardly nothing. Drain oil from an oil pan on a wreck? No. They throw it in a scrapyard, and what's in it drips or oozes out, and it, including all the air conditioning material and oils. It's a cash grab. All of this. Look, carbon tax. If you don't think I'm like, my ears turned red first time I went to a counter and bought a $10 phone. And they wanted to charge like $240 for a carbon tax or some fucking thing. Oh boy,
Yeah, what they did is they monetized pollution. They made a business out of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
So
like
if
tires.
you
Here,
have,
you have to
if
pay to
you,
get rid of your tires.
yeah, not only that, but if you're a company that, let's say, burns coal or whatever and produces carbon dioxide or whatever, right? Let's say this year you don't burn your allotted amount. Well, you can sell that to another company, right? That can produce more pollution. So what are you doing? You're just reshuffling and making money out of pollution. It's amazing.
But
Well, here we
there is
pay
no
for
pollution.
recycling, and apparently over 90% of what we recycle doesn't actually get recycled. No matter how hard we work in our homes to separate plastic cans, whatever, most of it doesn't actually, like in Starbucks and other places too, it don't get recycled.
Well,
It's a
get this, yeah. So here in the UK, when we had the shutdown, they told us that they were no longer going to be doing the normal routes on the bins. So you have different bins, different bin days to take everything. So they just told us no more recycling. Just throw everything in the one bin, or if you need to use two bins, it doesn't really matter. There's going to be no recycling being done whilst this virus is here and when we're in shutdown.
Point being, there wasn't any being done before.
Yeah, but I mean, they made us such a big deal about getting a green bin, a blue bin, a grey bin, and that we had to do all this recycling, and then this comes along, and then they just told everyone to forget it, So it's like, well, okay, so let's say we'd spent the past 5 years splitting everything up and trying to make a change, if we believe their bollocks, and then we do this, and then they tell us, oh no, now you don't have to do it because there's the virus around.
Well, on base, because I worked as a subcontractor, we tore apart the barracks to make a restaurant. It was about $4 million conversion. This is on base. It lasted about 6 months, and then the orders came to convert it back to barracks. That's a windfall for contractors, I'll tell you. But it's just stupid for the taxpayer.
That's what you call envelopes under the table being exchanged. That's how that works.
It's not really priority, if you ask me. It's just waste. There's no accountability. I could get in trouble on base if I used any other garbage can or bin on base than the one I was assigned to, or contractor bins. For throwing a piece of paper in one, you can get thrown off the base.
Well, Jimbo, you're from Montreal area. You know how they do things. The construction crew comes up, digs up the street, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then closes the street, and then Hydro-Quebec comes the next week and digs the street up again, right? Instead of doing the work all at the same time, right?
I remember down at, I forget what metro station it was. It was out in the west, one of the, I think not Plamondon, but before that. They had dug up the streets for building the new hospital, children's hospital there, but they dug it up, put down this and that, paved it all over. It looked beautiful. Didn't last a week. More crews in, digging up, putting down another type of system, digging up all new asphalt, all the new gravel put down, whatever. It just, that was the second time around. They finished, repaved everything, and then the third came for water. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, instead of tearing it all up, one crew with the next crew, cover it up, done, Nope. And there was a period in Montreal, instead of repaving the sidewalks when they needed it, they were just putting asphalt. Oh
crazy.
God, it looked horrid. Yeah, especially some of the so-called more tourist places like Saint Laurent and Saint Catherine and around, it looked awful, you know. And, you know, they got rid of some, it's so yuppie there now. It used to have steamy hot dogs, other stuff, all these, well, transgender bars and you know, just kind of special culture place there. But all that's gone now, and it's all yuppie and cafes and suits and television cameras, lights, and no real street culture there no more.
Can I share a video with you guys? Well, part of the video. It's only a minute or so. Do you want to click on the show channel, click on me live, and you'll get to see the video live. Right, so I was doing my daily search for flat Earth content, you know, and came across this channel here. It's called Truth Wanted. So I saw 12,700 subscribers, and I thought, oh wow, okay, looks like quite a large channel with lots of videos up. You know, it has quite a lot of videos up. So look at his videos. Not a lot of views though. That's the one thing that we get. 175 views, 123, 80, 119, 52, 17, 62, 57, 38, 235. You get the deal. You know, they're not very popular, even though they have a lot of subscribers. But I thought I would listen anyway. So I'm trying to bait these guys to come in and have a little chat with us, right? Because, well, here's what I've put. Hey guys, want to come on to have a chat with me over on my platform? I heard you say it's bullshit and you can debunk it left and right. So with that bold statement in mind, I would like you to bring these debunks and show them to me. Last night's show already has been watched by 1,200 people, so it may even give your own platform some exposure, you know, coming in and debunking the silly flat earthers with your left and right proofs. You can message me here, or there are other ways to contact me inside my show description. What do you have to lose? I mean, you have all the answers, right? And Helen Degenerates has been in as well. Shout out to Helen Degenerates, because he's been in there giving him a bit of left and right stuff as well as himself. So I'm just going to play this this guy here. Let's listen to how he says what he thinks about flat earthers proofs. Here we go.
Like, they are 100% in on the flat earth thing, and they will make videos that are like, no, here's why it's legit. And it's obviously BS. You could debunk it left and right.
There we go. So he could debunk it. So apparently he could debunk it left and right, guys. What do you think?
I think you should have went 3D, up and down, you should have said as well.
I think these people should shoot guns straight up.
And not move.
Yeah.
We're just joking, by the way.
No, but Coriolis would save them.
I know. But they'll use that against us somehow.
Well, anyway, maybe, as flat earthers here, you know, we're wasting our lives, you know, obviously, you know, because this guy can debunk flat earth in no time at all. He's got all the proofs. So,
hang on.
You know.
Jimbo's here. Don't call us flat earthers.
All right, yeah. Yeah, excluding Jimbo.
He can debunk it.
Sorry, Jimbo, I'm just busting your balls.
But he does not, you know? It's like in the Pirates of Penzance when the police are supposed to go get the pirates and they don't move. And they're saying, yes, we're going forward on the foe. And the Major Stanley's saying, but damn it, you don't go. Oh yeah, we're going. We're on our way to death. Yeah. And they're not moving a muscle. And General Stanley's saying, yes, but you don't go. This guy can debunk, but he's not debunking.
Well, here's the thing, guys. I mean, look, you know, we've all been on the scene for a while. You know, we've had, according to him, wasted years, and this guy has all the proofs, right? So, you know, I mean, all these wasted years and wasted hours that people spend listening to our proofs, and apparently this guy can debunk us in no time at all. So I think that we should get some of the people in the audience to maybe head on over and try and tell him to come over and have a little chat with us and bring his flat earth proofs, a bit like I've put here, yeah, bit similar to that, you know, maybe, you know, leave a few comments and try and prompt them that they can bring their proofs over here. I really would like to have a debate with these guys. Let's post this channel link in there. Well, the video link. So there's a video link.
Don't infinite plane society the poor guy.
Oh no! Well, no. I mean, no. He's just going to come in and just tell us it's flat. Tell us it's a globe, right? And he's gonna prove it to us. Apparently, because he can debunk this stuff dead easy. So anyway, I'm calling him out. What's he called? Hemant Mahesa. There's another dude on there, actually. There's two of them. In fact, we could bring them both in. How's that? I don't mind bringing them both in. Here's his other guy, Objectively Dan. I'll play a little bit of what he's got to say. Let's have a listen.
About Alex Jones level stuff. Like, yeah, I've studied his stuff enough to know, like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of product alignment that goes on here. I mean, we could talk about how he was selling stuff when COVID was first hitting. But
this is what Catherine brings up, like the tactics they use are identical to the flat earthers, which is don't believe what the smart people want you to think.
Right.
Then they will perpetuate. If there is a celebrity of any sort who gloms onto their idea. So for flat earthers, you had a couple of prominent basketball players like, that's a legit point to bring up. And then later on, like a month later, they'll be like, I was just kidding around. Like, no, you didn't sound like you were. And people did not believe that you were.
Yeah, that's
Well, I mean, these guys, they're the smart people, yeah? Well, maybe the smart people should come over here.
Yeah, we need to get these guys in here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, these guys are so confident with their proofs, right?
Left and right, Randy, left and right. Well, maybe we should do this, like, just get on and goad a whole heap of these channels. Anyone who says, they're stupid and we can debunk them, let's just throw out 100 challenges to anybody to come on this show.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the fact the Flat Earthers has cornered that market for grabbing Flat Earthers off of Facebook. So he goes onto Facebook and he'll bring in, supposed Flat Earthers, or maybe Flat Earthers that maybe aren't as, in depth of it like us guys are. They may believe it's flat, and they may go in there thinking that they're going to have a nice discussion and have a bit of back and forth, and they'll get listened to. They don't realise they're going in there and they're just going to get mocked relentlessly, and it makes a channel show for him. That's what Fight the Flat Earth does. That's how he builds his channel up, and people love that kind of stuff. I think it's only fair that we bring in these kind of guys that think they have all the proofs, and let's bring them in. Because the other channels, Simon Dan won't come here, right? He's not going to come on this show, right? And he's the biggest globe channel out there. So we've got to go cherry picking. We've got to go and try and find these other guys that think they know that they can prove the shape of the Earth, and that they actually think they're smart. So how else are we going to bait them in, guys? I've sent the link in the chat. Right, so I'm going to do the link again. And come on, guys, head on over, leave a comment, tell them to come on this show and have a debate. Tell them that instead of just getting a few poxy views on the show, they'll get a lot more if they come over here. They'll get to, I think they probably got fake subscribers. Some people do that. Some people buy the subscribers, which is why they're getting very few views for the amount of subscribers that they actually have. So maybe actually coming over here will garner them some proper subscribers. There's a benefit
Maybe
to
they're
this.
not just very interesting is why they don't have many subscribers.
I don't know. I mean, they seem like they've got some kind of presence about them. I wouldn't say that they didn't. I've seen. I'm not being funny, but I think the alignment's probably better than Simon Dan's. His corner's better than Simon Dan's, in my opinion. His corner's a little bit better, but that's definitely a better corner than Simon Dan's. And he's got a better camera than Fight the Flat Earth. Fight the Flat Earth doesn't have that good a camera, so well, that's normally good enough for the Globers.
Of course you heard of Mr. Sensible?
Yes, I have, yeah.
He was on Nathan's chat the other day, and they were trying to get him on. It didn't want to go on, so I started bugging him. I says, I'll debate you. He says, no, not on here. So I go to him, okay, let's go on Ranties. I tried to get him to come over here, but he wouldn't have it.
I don't know why not. You know, I give the Globers a fair crack of the whip over it. You know.
Yeah. He wants me to go over to some other channel.
Let me guess. Modern day debates.
Oh, you guessed it right on. And this other one that I never heard of.
Ranties is actually one of the ones with the most ebb and flow in conversations. You know, depending on who's on, what's going on, it works out okay. These others are always bias driven by, like, the one you just said there, modern debates, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He's so globe.
You know who's a moderator there, Jimbo?
Globehead of some kind.
All the globe heads. Yeah, they're all globe heads over there. All the moderators are globes.
Yeah, they're
Do I have to say anything else?
Weirdo Satanists and stuff. You know, I don't bother much with those people. They make no sense. You know, if it's, what you know all your life is a straight line, and they want to tell you it bends somehow, then if you're fool enough to believe them, I mean, I feel sorry for you. If you're smart enough to know that they're wacko and just spewing off anything because they're trying to defend a belief that's invalid, and they're afraid, then well, you know, by proxy through their fears, they're hurting people and themselves. You know, I don't care if they hurt themselves, but they really don't have any business hurting other people. You know, jump off a bridge if you want. Don't throw someone off.
I think Chemo's turned into one of our better debaters too. You know, for Flat Earth. You know, his original theory when he was talking about you know, gas pressure and stuff. You know, he's evolved that slightly a little bit, but he's also more rounded in a lot of other a lot of other subjects. He's actually a really good debater now.
Yeah, and he kind of has a way of needling in and can play both sides like a devil's advocate. It's really special.
Yeah, and Gleam, well, he just goes in and just wrecks places. Although I did hear on the grapevine, and I'm not too sure if it's true or not, but apparently he entered into a debate against some Globers a few days ago, and this is what I was told. I was told by them that they trashed him. Now, I don't know whether that's true, because I don't think it would be the case. They maybe overshouted him and maybe overtalked him. But, you know, I mean, he normally brings the goods, doesn't he, when he goes into these debates? I think it was against Wolfie, if I remember rightly. I think I heard that he debated Wolfie, and that the Wolf Pack apparently defeated him. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not.
I doubt that.
Did Wolfie do his transit shot of the ISS in front of the moon?
I don't know. Probably. I mean, Wolfie's one of these people that, you know, if he sets out to do something, he normally follows through on it. He's not one of these people that, you know, makes claim and doesn't follow it up.
I think when that one was posted, I asked how you get the depth of field and depth of focus to match, seeing as the ISS is 240 miles to 300 miles up, and the moon is 250,000 miles away. How do you focus on both at the same time? You know. Anyway, he never answered. He blocked the question, I think.
Yeah, the focus part's probably I've never really thought of that, actually. Yeah, that'd be an interesting thing. Although, you know, I did actually, you know, at one point I actually did the measurements on that, and it's scaled, you know, so the distances they actually give, the supposed distance to the ISS and the supposed distance to the moon, and their relative angular size to each other, and I did all the calculations and it matched, you know, so, and that was taken by people that had actually taken these images of the ISS, so there is, I believe there's something there, but, you know, I don't believe that it's the size that they say it is or the height that they say it is, you know, but I could be wrong, you know, I mean, that's it. I mean, we just don't know what the layering inside, if we did live in some kind of dome, has, you know, what those properties has. It may be able that it could support some kind of vacuum at the top, you know, or close to vacuum at the top, you know, where these satellites can work. You know, because
there's a word that has to be added to the lexicon again, is airship, you know, like the old, like Hindenburg, if you will. I don't think they all went away. Some of the things up there, like even what we're thinking might be the ISS, might be one of those airships.
There's definitely something there. I filmed it, and funny you mentioned that, Ranty, because I'm planning on trying to get it again tonight. It's passing twice overhead, Montreal,
Oh, wow.
7:20 and 9 o'clock.
What time is it now?
It's 6 o'clock here.
All right, okay, so not long to go.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's definitely. Sorry, Ranty, go ahead.
Well, no, I just think that there's probably a lot of truth inside a lot of the mistruths. So you get these. The satellites could still, as I say, I believe the satellites could work inside a dome. But they would be high up.
Well, the 6.5 miles a second. I mean, we're seeing that thing. It looks kind of slow as compared to 6 miles a second. If you know what I mean. It should
Exactly.
be like a streak of light in the sky.
Listen, I was filming it, Jimbo, for almost 5 minutes, and it's supposed to be traveling at 17,500 miles an hour.
That's 6.5 miles a second.
Yeah, that's how many times faster than a bullet?
Over 10 times.
Mm-hmm. And we see it with the naked eye.
Yeah, when we see the footage of the people inside of the ISS, if this thing is travelling at that speed in a big circle around the Earth, why aren't the people inside? Like you see them, it's supposedly no gravity and they're just hovering there. Why aren't they constantly against one wall of the ISS? Because it's travelling.
Physics dictates
I don't
they
think
should be stuck to the walls.
I don't think there's any. Don't get me wrong. I think there's something up there, but I don't personally believe anybody's living in it. Right?
Same here.
No, definitely.
That's
maybe it's just something floating around. Maybe I should turn lights on and off when it suits them.
Yeah, maybe I should have clarified what I meant. I believe that there's a region, in our atmosphere, it's still on a flat plane here, bearing in mind, where where you can have these satellites working, right, up there. But to say that a human could live in that atmosphere or that region is just preposterous. There's no way you would even consider sending somebody up into that sort of region. It's almost certain death.
Well, when you
from the radiation alone, supposedly.
Your maximum height without winter gear is 15,000 feet anywhere you go. You'll freeze to death if you go over 15,000 feet and you're not geared for it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can be lower, the freeze, but usually it's 15,000 feet.
And then again, I also believe there's the satellites on balloons as well. I mean, they're for real. I mean, there's images of them. Professor Phil Bell would disagree, but there's photos of them launching it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The temperatures recorded going up, and they go to like minus 59 to minus 80 at some points.
Not only that, they have the satelloons that Ranty just mentioned. People just think they're just balloons floating around. No, sir. They have solar panels on them. They're able to stay up for months and months, and they can control them. They have fans on them. They can go up, down, left, right. They can hover. It's not like they think, like you light a fire on a balloon and it goes up. It's not like that.
And on the subject of air pressure, again, this guy in the Action Lab, I watched one of his videos on air pressure and balloons and stuff when you inflate them, etc. It really puts a twist on, what you'd think logically should be happening. Really is pretty amazing. It's not quite what we think. And even if our so-called firmament was a solid barrier, it would still flex like a balloon. So like I say, the properties of the inflation of a small balloon have the same characteristics of air pressure in a larger container, which is our environment here. I really recommend some of you take a look at the Action Lab and the guy doing his experiment with the pressure gauges inside balloons and stuff. You can't think of pressure the same way. You can't.
Do you get copyright by him? I would imagine you would.
He might. Like I say, I wouldn't take a chance with his because he is good. The guy, he does a lot of up-to-date kind of video and information, technical stuff.
He's very good.
Yeah,
I highly recommend Jimbo. You must have seen it, the one where he does with Petit on the cupola.
No, I missed the cupola one.
Oh my God, bro! It's the all-time #1 hit.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'll
you
go
got to
back
see
and
it.
check him. But
He
this
can't
guy,
even say his name. He can't even say his name.
yeah,
Thurston, Tristan, you got to see it, bro.
he is excellent, and this little thing on pressure is excellent. It's like when I suggested to people, here's an example. It sounds like a trick question, but I might as well do it here too. You have a big egg timer. It has a ton of sand in it. You flip it over, and the sand falls. With the sand at the bottom, you weigh it. It weighs, say, 2,200 pounds before you flip it and have the sand falling. While the sand is falling, does the scale indicate more weight, less weight, or equal the 2,200 when it was all at rest? Equal to, the same weight, greater than, or less than?
Did you change the weight numbers on this
No,
mid sentence?
this is the scale, and the thing is
Less
on the
than.
scale. You weigh it, it's 2,200 pounds, you flip it, it starts to fall, the sand. Now, what does the
Less.
scale tell you?
Less than.
More
Good
than.
guess.
Personally,
Why
I
would
don't
it
see
be
why
more
there
than?
should be a change.
Because when you flipped over that ton of dirt and sand, you gave it potential energy. It has to release it. The only time it has to release it is as it's falling. As it impacts with the bottom and the scale, it registers extra weight.
I'd
I
have to
do that
see
when I
that
measure.
to believe
When I
it.
measure,
Yep, there's a
when I
video,
when I have,
and
I do it.
it,
I do it at work every day.
yeah, there's a video that shows it with graphs and instruments perfectly, and it's not copyright there. So that one's a good one to
I
show
measure
that.
on scientific scales. If I've got 100 grams that I tip into a beaker on a scientific scale, it will register higher than 100 grams and then come back and settle at 100 grams. Only momentarily, but it will go higher and then come back to a lower figure.
When you say momentarily, what does
Now
that mean?
we're talking about continuous flow
Hold
of
on,
the
hold on, hold
sand.
on. How momentarily are you talking about? You
Well,
mean as
it's
you
an
make the
instant.
movement with your hand, then it shows more weight, and then it just
Well,
equalizes again?
No,
this,
as the material hits the weighing plate on the scale, it pushes it down and then it comes
it
back to rest.
releases the energy it had, yes,
Yeah,
from being at a higher
it does it,
position.
SE. I physically do it myself almost every day.
Yeah.
Wow,
I see
okay.
it.
Now,
Learn something new every day. I got to see that.
yeah,
Yeah,
as I
that's
say,
awesome.
while the sand is falling, the scale registers more weight till the end, and it
See,
goes back
I
down.
would have thought because there's sand in the air, like falling, that it wouldn't register the weight of that. But you mean as it's hitting the bottom, what does it say?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
force is
okay.
registered, and that stored energy is released basically, and the
But
scale
how
has to
momentarily
represent.
is this? I still, but
How
as
long
it's
will it take
falling, you
the
mean the
sand to
whole
fall?
time it's emptying? Or
All the time the sand is falling, it's registering. That energy is being released all the time. If it takes 10 minutes, it's heavier for 10 minutes.
okay, I got to check that out. That sounds fascinating.
And it's one of those things that, again, I mentioned because it's counterintuitive. What we think is exactly the opposite normally of what's really happening. Like I say, the guy with the gauges inside the balloons, wow, that shocked me. It's totally against everything everyone says, really. So, it's just it fits. So it's not like it doesn't fit. But
But
again, like I
hold
say,
on a second. Is that I still am puzzled with this? Is that because it's the weight of the sand hitting, or it's the change of weight? I,
it's the energy that was stored when you lift something above the ground. It's holding back potential energy.
I guess as the
See,
momentum of the thing hits
yeah,
the weighing scale plate, it pushes it down, but then it comes back to its actual weight.
think of it this way: if you have 1 pound, you raise it 1 foot off the ground. How much force can it hit with?
yeah, I
One
get
foot
what you're
pound.
saying. Yeah.
If it's 100 pounds up, God damn it, it's going to hit with 100 pounds of force.
But it's the weight change that I'm finding hard to.
The energy change. Well, I'll try to find the one too. I'll take 2 minutes.
I'd love to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take 2 minutes and try to find that one video with the actual sand falling there. Give me a sec.
Okay, so we're talking about pressure inside a container, and that whether or not you could get pressure gradients inside of one. So I myself personally believe you can. Bob does too. I think an easy way to demonstrate that is, if you can of hairspray or deodorant, you just leave it on the side for a few days. You have to shake it up, to repressurize it for it to work, because it settles into its constituent parts inside the container. Right at the hand, how's it going, my friend? Not seen you on for a couple of days. Well, you was here yesterday, but you didn't say much.
Yeah, just listening nowadays.
Say that again. You were a bit low then.
Just listening more nowadays, trying to,
He's right to wrench.
He's right to veg. Right, okay. Right, okay. Gleam's having a bit of trouble. He's talking about, does anyone know what this hot pixels is that he was arguing with Wolfie about? Something to do with the...
It's when you set your computer on fire, because it pisses you off. Lots of hot pixels.
Oh, is that what it is? Right, so he said that... he was talking about the Starlink that was travelling above his head, and they said it was hot pixels. So I think that's something to do maybe with the sizes that he was probably trying to say, look at the sizes of those. And they were probably trying to say, well, they were hot pixels. One pixel reflecting a lot of sun, I would imagine, to look like they're taking up a lot more pixels than they actually are. I imagine that's probably what it is. I mean, I'm speculating here, but it wouldn't surprise me, because we were having this discussion 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, about the Starlink train and how bright they looked in comparison to like a plane, and yet they were infinitely further away. Huh.
I tried to film them twice. They weren't where they were supposed to be 2 times.
Right, okay, so Gleam says, it's similar to screen burn, where one of the pixels burn the screen, so to say. He was asking for other sats not going dark in the shadow, and there is loads of white dots in and out. Okay, Gleam, I think it's probably going to be better, mate, if you popped in at some point. I know he's dealing with 20 coppers right now, apparently. So a typical day in the life of Gleam, he says. It'd be an interesting story when you pop in. Tell us about it. How's it going, Paige?
Yeah, good. I only popped in to suggest to everyone to check out Crow 777's latest video. He's really going full steam ahead with this whole common law, and he actually is talking to somebody about the court cases that this guy has helped people through, and he's done like over 500 court cases, and he specifically starts talking about how a living man or woman can go from being a public thing, so the thing on your license or the commercial entity that your name is, back into the private realm. Whenever you feel like it, you can switch back and forth because you are a living thing. A corporation can only remain in the public sphere. So when I say things like, you can fight them in their own territory, that is absolutely true. You just jump back into the private when it suits you so they can't touch you. So I just suggest everyone go and have a look at it. It's very interesting.
Definitely, Paige. You put me onto it yesterday. Thank you, darling. It's an excellent video. I second it. Go and have a watch. It's really, really interesting.
Isn't it fantastic, isn't it? The only thing he says that I can't validate, and I've heard different stories on, is the whole rhetoric around the king being forced to sign the Magna Carta at knife point. Now, I've heard that, and I've also heard that that is disinformation. And so, you know, I can't go back into the past and be there to see it happen. So it's very hard for me to validate which side is true, whether he did, you know, do it under duress or not. But it really doesn't matter whether he did it under duress or not. We are living men and women. We're not corporations, so we should be treated as such.
It'll make more sense when you watch the video.
Yes, probably.
Is this in Australia?
I keep telling people you've got to go and watch it yourself. I can't. It's so hard to explain. It's just easier if you just go and watch the video. You know, maybe even spend the $7 to get the subscription to see the second hour on his website, because they go into even more. Yeah, they go into a lot more detail, and he starts talking about how you switch between the two. And he's making jokes about how he can, you know, he jumps into the public, kicks them up the arse while they're not looking, and then he jumps back into the private where they can't touch him, and there's nothing they can do about it. And he wins all his cases. And he even goes through telling you what to do when you get pulled over, what to say to them, to show them that you know what you're talking about, you know the words to use. You know, he explains, don't call yourself a person, don't call yourself a human. You know, you are a man or a woman. Don't use any other word, because a human is a hue is a monster. A person is a monster.
It's a dead entity.
Yeah. Dead entities. And we're not dead, we're living. So only corporation is dead. Right. But you can use both. You can do both.
Is this, hold on.
Benefits and privileges. Sorry, I was just going to say, if you're happy with the benefits and privileges you get from signing the contract, like your license, you sign that, you are then under the stipulations of their rules, like travelling down the road at 60 kilometres an hour. Because you have that license and you've signed that, you must follow those rules. But you can choose to give them your license when you want to, and then if they want to be an asshole, you can just jump back into the private and say, no, you know, show me your authority over me. I'm a living man or woman. And
okay, so
they don't have it.
So Paige, is this just for an Australian, or you know, is this all over?
No.
Well, your laws in England. Well, I know Canada is more similar to us than America is, because they're Commonwealth, and I would assume UK is the same. But America is almost the same. They're going to do a show in about a week or two that's focused directly on America, but this one was more Australian, and those laws I think are more similar for you and for Canadians than anyone else.
It made it sound like there were nuances of difference. Yeah, nuances of difference, but ostensibly all of this crap is built on the same foundation. So
yes,
yeah, I think there's not gulfs of difference between the two, but there will be subtle differences.
So that's
literally
he's explaining
the words you use. The words you use, they literally can't deal with you. If
like
you use
he
the
said,
right
the
words.
judge said to him in one case, "Oh, you can do that if you want. You're human." And he just turned straight around and said to the judge, "Excuse me, do you have evidence of that?" And the judge doesn't, because he's not a human. He's a man, a living man. So you put it back. This is why Jesus answered everything with a question. The person who asks the questions assumes the creditor role. The person who answers the questions assumes the debtor role. So when they ask you a question, you need to teach yourself to respond with a question, or respond in a way that keeps you safe. So say, I will follow your directive under duress because you're threatening me or, you know, telling me you're going to arrest me or whatever, you know, you need to stipulate, because they, in this system they've set up, not saying anything is assumed to be consent.
Right. Just to some of the people in the chat right now who keep tagging me with my name, saying that Bob is abusing his wrench. I'm not saying that. In fact, you know, just leave Bob alone. You know, if you want to talk to Bob, you know you're going to get timed out if you start mentioning crappy stuff. You know you're just egging to try and troll him. So I've got no sympathy. If you're going to troll somebody and he has a wrench, you're going to get timed out. It's as simple as that. So just don't do it. Just behave nice to one another, talk to one another, discuss things with each other. Don't troll. How many times do I have to say this? It's like Groundhog Day with you guys. You know, the chat is rolling along very nice. Everyone's having their own conversations. You can all do the same. You don't have to troll. Simple.
But you kind of get your head around it fairly quickly, and it's just really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. No, I've only just switched over from was it Jeranism, doing the stream with Jason Goodman, and then I buggered off for like 20 minutes, come back, and your show was on, so I jumped on. I missed the whole start though.
Hey, Ranty, real quick. Montreal was talking about the ISS, and I was just listening and thinking, and I was like, what happened to the freaking mirror, right? The MIR. So I just did a quick Wikipedia on it, and it just tons of bullshit information. Anyway, I went down to station objectives, and I was trying to find what happened to it. Like, how come, you know, Montreal's going to film the ISS? Well, isn't the mirror still floating around out there? Who knows? Well, they said they deorbited it, right? Or the plan is to deorbit it, meaning slow it down so it falls back to Earth, so it'll burn up in the atmosphere. But just before they did that, they actually put it up to private investor sale, and this is on Wikipedia, as a orbital movie set. That's what it says on there on Wikipedia, an orbital movie set.
Wow.
That's how they propose.
No
That's how they propose the
way.
private set. Yeah, go down to station objectives, scroll down, try to get to, I think it's final operation or something.
Holy shit.
And it was going to be sold privately, or was proposed or offered as the first and only orbital movie set. That's funny shit.
Okay, so I'm looking on. What did you say? Go to the Wikipedia for it.
Yeah, Wiki
Yeah.
Mirror.
Yeah.
Scroll down through the subtopics too. I think it's station objectives. It's like one of the last ones before resources.
All right, hang on. Control F. Station. Oh.
Well, it's you know, on Wiki you always get the first subtopic. The main topic is mirror, and then you have the subtopic.
Yeah, I was looking for the word objectives, but I can't find it. So there must be something else that's there.
Type in control find movie set.
Movie set. No movie set. There's movie studio. Near the end of its life. So there you go. Near the end of its life, there were plans for private interests to purchase Mir, possibly for use as the first orbitable television movie studio.
Well, they always tell us the truth somewhere, in some way, don't they? Orbital movie sets.
Okay.
Skeksis.
There we go. I wonder if NASA want to buy it.
They've got their pool.
Oh yes, they do. They've got their pool.
Maybe Elon Musk bought it.
A couple chapters above that, it talked about how the mirror was, whatever the story, the rhetoric is, but it got damaged in one of those reoccurring Perseid meteor showers. Remember, didn't we recently just have one of those a few weeks ago? Right, and they apparently come around on a cycle or some crap. Well, did the ISS is just sitting there bobbing and weaving and dodging, or like
taking cover?
They have special radar. They track every single piece, and they're able to maneuver up and down.
Gotcha. Okay.
They have the guidance system from Spaceballs.
I just posted the first video I ever took of the ISS. Have a look, guys. Tell me if that's traveling at 17,500 miles an hour.
Where's that in the general chat?
Yeah.
Okay, let's. Is that on YouTube? Oh, it is.
No, it's in.
It is.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's my YouTube channel, but I posted it on general.
Okay, so I can share my screen for people to watch if they want. Because I'm sharing it. I'm showing it to the audience now. So.
Keep in mind, it's my very first attempt. It's very shaky.
Oh, now it's shaky. Right. Okay.
Randy knows all about shaky cameras. Huh? Reggie? All about shaky cameras?
So you're gonna have to help us out here. What's the first thing we're looking at?
I don't see anything yet.
I see an orb.
You see an orb? It looks like an orb. Yeah, I don't know what that is. That's not the ISS.
The ISS.
No way.
Yeah.
Do you get it into focus and you can actually tell that's the ISS?
I tried my best to get it into focus, but like I said, it's moving fast and it's just a blur basically. But my point is, don't try to see like the focus because I don't do it good. Like, try to see how long I'm on it, and it's like supposedly traveling 10 times the speed of a bullet. Like, yeah, right.
And how long do you say you saw this for?
Sorry?
How long did you say that you saw this for?
For approximately 4 minutes.
Now,
you're gonna see at the end, it zooms out, and you're gonna see Saturn and Jupiter.
I sort of wonder why it's going over Montreal tonight. You only get to see it 2 times. Shouldn't it be back around and a little over in another hour and a half?
Mm-hmm. I was
Shouldn't
thinking
you
the
see
same
it
thing, Jimbo,
every hour and a half, at least moving off into the distance or doing whatever? Not just twice and then no more?
Now, does this thing look to you like it's traveling at 17,500 miles an hour? With people inside?
I don't believe there's people inside. That's one thing I just don't believe. But there is something. There's something up there, though.
We started
Notice how it's
experimenting.
lit. Sorry, Jimbo, but one more thing. Notice how it's lit completely from one side of the horizon to the other. And right, shouldn't the sun, like as it goes further away, shouldn't it like fade away or be half, or you know what I'm saying? It's always perfectly lit.
What time was this? I mean, how long ago was the sunset?
Well, yeah. What are the times it's coming over tonight, Montreal? You said 7 and 9 or something.
Yeah, 7:20 and 9 o'clock. Whoever's in Montreal, whip out your cameras.
Okay, and when is sunset in Montreal?
Sunset, I believe, is around 8 o'clock, Aaron. I'm not sure.
7:38. Is
I
it?
won't be able to get the first pass, but maybe the second one.
Is it still twilight? Because here's what they're gonna say, right? Oh, if kind of light bends around the Earth, right? So you have the.
Let me just stop you for a second. That's Jupiter and Saturn on the left. That's when I lost track of it.
Cool video. I'll link that up for people to watch in case they want to go and have a look.
Thank you.
And I think Jimbo, I think there's a 50-degree offset or something. That's how they keep spiraling, making this spiraling move around their ball. So in Montreal, Canada, it might not be visible or just barely on the horizon, they might say. But regardless,
No,
That's
I
just
have the full track. I know exactly where it's going to track from. The 9 o'clock one, I'm all set for it.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you try to find an airplane that crosses a similar position as you see that so-called ISS, and see if it takes the same amount of time to track the same span.
I was thinking the same thing, bro. Yeah, and there was a few of them, but I haven't been able to catch them. I want to catch them going clear across. I thought of that. Yeah.
Where I am, I have a view to the west, and sometimes out west, I see things. Well, they look like stars for hours. And these are planes flying at 500 an hour towards me to land at the airport here.
Montreal, on the tracker, do they tell you what angle to look up at, or if it's
Yeah. Oh
overhead?
yeah, they tell you exactly what angle, what yeah. And I must say it's pretty accurate, the ISS. The Starlink, I tried 2 or 3 times. They were never there where they said they were.
I caught the Starlink by accident.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I have one photo of it. I can show it if you want.
Sure. But there's definitely something there. I saw it with somebody, and you see like 5, 6, 7 lights clearly going. I mean, you can't deny that. There's something there now. What that is, I have no clue.
Well, let's go back to our original subject. I was talking to not Professor Phil Bell. I don't know why I thought of him. Dr. John D. Before, and he said, a bit like everyone else yesterday that I was showing this to in the chat, and that was watching on the stream. The cycle of the cycle of the moon on that 26,000 year trajectory, and the sun, with the North Pole being the thing that moves, and because the sun travels around that, obviously it moves across the plane with it. So Dr. John D said that he thought in his mind it's the first time that he's ever seen anything that actually brings a lot of other things into. Just let me put this up on full screen. Right, there we go. So yeah, so he said it's the first time that he's contemplated anything that brings everything else that he's tried to figure out into the same existence. You know, it's the one thing that answers a lot of questions for him. I don't know how you feel. How would you feel about
that? You're not live, or?
Oh, what do you mean live? We are live. Yeah, of course we're live.
No. I mean, were you showing something?
No. It was just in general. It was just talking about the calendar. The 26,000 year cycle that the Mayans and the Aztecs used to use. Even the Incas, I suppose. So they all talk about this 26,000 year cycle. So if you imagine that the sun is moving around the plane, opening up new lands to inhabit for a short time, a few thousand years, and then moving to the next, and then moving all the way back again to the beginning. That's why I was talking about the Ice Age before, and saying, about 1,000 feet of ice sheet covering like the UK 10,000 years ago. The same in America.
It was 2 miles where I'm at, Ranty.
See, that
2 miles of ice, they're saying.
2 miles.
Again, for me, that would infer natural cycles and back to Mother Nature over creation.
Oh, the cycles we know are guaranteed, Jimbo. That goes without question. We know the solar cycle.
Everyone here figures that the sun is going around a great circle or something, like it's going over a great big pizza. My view isn't that. My view is that the sun goes straight across. Our eyes twist it. It moves north. It deflects, almost like a cathode ray tube.
Well, here's what
light on a TV. But again, I mean.
Well, here's what I think, or what could work. Here's what could work. Right? Imagine that the continents still need to be positioned properly, right? So we still need a few tweaks on that, I would imagine. I don't think the map is proper or completed yet. So, even the Gleason's map probably isn't 100% yet, but it's close. And if you had, you've seen the snow globe that Mark Sargent punts around, and that idea of the sun chasing the moon, and it goes across this, with the ice wall around it, but it only ever has the same continents on that particular idea, because let's think out of the box here and say, well, that's because the North Pole, which everything else goes around, is centralized in where we live right now, but in 2,000 years' time, that North Pole may have shifted, let's say, 5,000 miles or 10,000 miles, to a different location, which would then open up new lands and freeze over old lands as it moves away. So you'd still have that circle that goes around. You just have different continents. It would just open up new places, and then you would always have a habitable zone that you would be in.
So life would somehow spawn there, and people would mushroom?
Sorry?
So how does all this life come back to it?
No, you would migrate. You would migrate with it. You would follow. You would do the migration.
Oh, wow. That's pretty convenient.
Yeah, and it's kind of like this, Ranty, right? Like, so there's a 23-degree tilt of the polar axis or whatever, which they say we're going around. The sun does that. But let's think about this. So there's 66.6% of the flat that is covered in ice, but as that north moves around, that 66% keeps moving around too because of the local sun, right? Melting the ice. And so that, because I was always trying to think, why is 666 important? Well, there's 66% of an area that maybe is covered in ice that we don't know about, right?
Well, here's a little note too. Heat melts ice, not the sun.
Sure. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, this is my very new theory. It probably needs a lot of work, but it's just worth thinking about. That we are told in the histories, that we've migrated. I mean, we were told that there was 2 miles of ice, like you say, over America and other places. 2 miles of ice. I mean, that's a lot of water. That's a lot of water.
They say it created the Great Lakes, Ranty. So yeah,
right, okay.
A lot of water.
I could say I started the Chicago fire. It doesn't make it so.
Doesn't mean it's real. Yeah. Agreed. We're going by the current theory.
Yeah. In the Pacific Northwest, we have what's called the Columbia Basin, right? Where just for some reason you go into a canyon, right? Everything's carved out. The Columbia River, heads out to the sea. And the rhetoric is, well, there was an ice dam at some point a long time ago that melted and let all that water just rush out, to the sea. That's what I was taught.
That's what they say Noah's flood was in Europe.
Well, I mean, to be honest, there's all these floods in the past, that we've been told about. We've had these different floods. We've had these migrations that have happened. We were told that Neanderthals lived here. And then we came out of Africa and we colonized the UK, so we obviously moved out, and then we obviously bumped into the Neanderthals and we had these disagreements, and then they went extinct. This is what we're told, isn't it? But what if it wasn't the case? What happens if this migration was just a forced migration? The Neanderthals are just people that had adapted to live in the cold, in these regions. That these natural floods, or the melting of ice and the reforming of new ice in different places as the sun moves around, the ancient things that we find, the ancient ruins, and going back to things like the pyramids and stuff. That Jimbo, you were saying that they probably weren't made by the Egyptians. Well, what happens if they were made 20,000 years ago or 25,000 years ago, and they'd just been frozen over in time for a period?
Sure.
Previous cycle. Yeah. The previous cycle, yeah.
I don't know if you've seen any of the landscape giants around this plane, Ranty. titans, petrified beings, size of mountains.
The big vagina that I told you about.
Huge vaginas you could walk in. You can make a water park
You can walk into. Yep.
Yeah.
So is that Mud Fossils University?
No, I don't look at him anymore. He hates flat earthers too much. But I got
Yeah,
my
he
own
does,
site
doesn't
up. It just a bunch of pictures of these mountains that have faces, eyes, noses, chins, breasts, whole mountain ranges that are titans, giant beings that are petrified, turned to stone, all around you. Scotland, everywhere.
Well, who's to say that
calling out someone in his last video about peer review too?
I mean,
think about this too,
who's to say
the
that
ice.
Who's to say that the you know the habitable zone that we think we may even know of right now is the limit? It could be just a pinprick.
I don't think this is the limit at all, and I think there are, outside of our realm where we are, there are still giants and trolls and other things that are deliberately kept out of our area.
Imagine this, guys. So, okay.
I still like people who are flat earthers. Don't mean they're bad people, and that I hate them.
So let's consider this.
They're just
Randy.
people. I mean, people are people. I'm not against people.
The saltwater oceans we know of, the average depth they tell us is 2 miles, right? Montreal has heard stories of 2 mile thick ice, right? I've heard stories of that. It's 2 miles thick. Well, ice is fresh water, right? It's not. There's no salt in ice. So when you talk about waters below and waters above, right? Kind of interesting.
It's got to be fresh.
Where did all that fresh water come from to turn into blah blah blah? We can go on forever, right?
Maybe there are other suns. Like if you imagine 2 dots on 2 wheels going around, and every now and again those dots come around to sort of the same position, and then the ice between them unmelts, and there's actually a little way to get through from, the next little pond over. Maybe that's where all the
that's not far off, if you ask me, because here's what happened one time, and this is about, I guess, 3 or more years ago. I was on with Poncho Pete, Vinny, and another gentleman from Manchester. Now, I was watching my sunset here. I'm in Ottawa, looking west towards Vancouver, Tofino, all those beautiful places. The sun had just set here, which means way past Vancouver and stuff, way past the Pacific. The sun had disappeared, the night sky started coming down a bit, and I mentioned it. And the man in Manchester said, "Oh, I can see the sun." Well, here's the problem. I'm looking directly forward at, west, and the sun is appearing in England at my back, 180 degrees behind me. It's like it's going away and coming up behind me at the same time, which to me means that one sun continues going and another one follows up behind it, possibly. I don't know. But it shouldn't happen that way.
Yeah, I wonder about that sometimes, whether there's a following sun. We seem to see it too many times in places where it shouldn't really be, or
exactly.
Definitely shouldn't be
lighting
on the board.
Places, it should not be lighting. You're absolutely right. Absolutely.
Then there's the multiple pond theory that we were discussing yesterday. That's also plausible. The aliens are coming from left, right, instead of up.
That's why they're called extraterrestrials.
Look, in Hebrew,
well done, Paige.
The name of God is the Most High, Eliun. And how close is that to alien? You got to ask yourself.
That's very... Yeah.
Hebrews call God Eliun, the Most High, not alien.
Or
Eliun.
ask yourself why they tried to change the terminology from some of the wordings that we used to say regularly. Extraterrestrial was a very well-known term, 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, till they brought out the film E.T. And what did they put ET and extraterrestrial together to do? To make you think of things coming from a distant planet, yeah?
Well, in 1909, John Carter was published. It was a science fiction about going to Mars, in the colony on Mars. That's from 1909.
Was that the Elon character?
No, that's from another story, but
That was another one, was it?
Disney made a movie called John Carter, and I think they deliberately partly sabotaged it and stuff, but it's a good movie science fiction-wise there, but Mars
We'd
is
have
just
to-
a light.
We'd have to look up the origins of what our language says what extra means. As far as I know,
for fuck's sake.
hold on, Paige. Extraordinary.
No,
right?
no,
We
sorry,
say-
I'm trying
we
to
say
mute and I
Oh, sorry. Extraordinary, right? Extraordinary just means not ordinary, like something above and beyond. Not even above. Just means from out or just not, right? So we'd have to look at what Latin, where we get our language, what extra means, because if they're gonna come back and tell us that extra means not from here territory, right? That's what they're gonna say.
Let's put it to the test. I'm going to share this screen right now. So, okay, so I've typed in 2 words. I've typed in extra and I've typed in terrestrial. So let's have a look. So extra, added to an existing or a usual amount or number, right? Adding to an existing, yeah, to be greater, to a greater extent than usual. In addition to, everything seems to be in addition to. So in addition to what? Now let's look at terrestrial.
I mean, his origin is outside of.
Well, yeah. If you go to Etym online, have you been there, Ranty?
No.
ETYM online. One word though. ETYM online.
ETYM online.
Yeah, one word. One. No space.
Okay. Right.
And then type in extra and see what it says.
Okay.
And it would be extra. There's probably going to give you a bunch of them. You have to click the extra with a dash.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Outside, beyond
Yeah.
the scope of. So outside, beyond the scope of what is usual or expected. Yep.
Think about the phrase Deus Ex is God out of. It's outside of something. Something is extra. Exit. You're leaving. You're going outside of a thing.
Yeah.
So,
That X means it's outside of.
so what's outside of? What are they talking about? Outside of what? Outside, beyond the wall. Let's say if there was a wall beyond that, further afield.
Extracurricular.
If they're saying extraterrestrial, they're saying outside of what is terrestrial. So outside of Earth or outside of whatever is considered Terra.
Well, in that website there, Ranty, type in extraterrestrial and see how they.
At least that's what they should be saying.
Well,
if they're not saying that, then they're using the word wrong, basically.
Yeah, they are. They use like flat earthers still use the 8 inches per mile squared. It's been wrong from day one. It'll be wrong at the end. So there you go.
And that site, Etym Online, is
It is not wrong.
But it does give a
See,
map. Of,
if you had to calculate the full 90 degrees of the Earth's curve, how would you do it with the 8 inches per mile squared? Please.
You don't need to calculate the full 90
Oh yes,
degrees.
you do. To do 360 degree diameter accurate measurement of the Earth.
You don't need to.
You don't need to. You don't need to measure the Earth
don't need to.
360 degrees
Well,
accurately.
Hold on,
because
who's
it's
that?
convenient for you to say that.
One at a
It's
You
not
can't
time.
do it.
accurate,
It's
though.
impossible,
It's
Jimbo.
only a convenience.
It's literally impossible to
mathematically
accurately do
incorrect.
that.
Well, okay. So, 2 and 2 does not equal 4 with the 8 inches per mile squared. 2 and 2 does equal 4 with the degree radians. So, there you go. You do it wrong.
Right.
I know
Let me read this out. So terrestrial says late 14th century of or pertaining to the earth. Also earthly, of the earth or land, from terra or earth, originally opposed to celestial, natural history sense of living on land is attested to from the 1630s. The noun meaning
opposed to celestial.
Yeah.
So not anything to do with celestial.
And
so extra territory, like our
living on
territory,
land.
just
Yeah.
outside of.
Yeah, living on land that isn't, that's opposed to celestial. So they're directly referring to land on Earth, basically.
You're gonna have to look up opposed now, Randy. You're gonna have to look up opposed. What is?
Yeah, it's like seeing the Adventures
So
of
actually,
Sinbad or something.
opposed. We know the position, right? The word the pose, POSE, to pose, to position yourself. So to oppose, what does op mean, Bob? Gee, it's op.
Yeah, but what they're putting in the brackets is is what they're saying, and what they are then. This from terror is their wording. This is the wording that they're talking about. So when he says this originally opposed to is what we're talking about in our language now. So we're talking about originally opposed to, and then it's celestial. So we understand that. We don't have to look up originally opposed to understand what they meant by that, because this is what we mean by this.
Well, and like I said, this site there is just a map of how English supposedly, came to being. Because you're typing in English, right? And it breaks it down through Indo-European, Latin, French, whatever. Just how we came to say these words, kind of.
Well, it's also called cursive, as in swearing, spelling. Almost every part of English is cursive. Spell casting. It can be used as double talk, right, left, and center.
Well, that does it for me. That does it for me. Opposed to the celestial and living on the land, that'll do. That's terrestrial. Yep, so extraterrestrials, thank you very much.
To get back to what Paige was saying about person, if you look up person, it clearly shows how that word came to be in English, which is persona, a mask. Not you. It's kind of something else that
exactly
you are presenting yourself as
something you put on.
Wish.
Yeah, you present it as, but it's not actually yourself.
Yeah, that's where the word person comes from. But everybody I know says, "Yeah, I'm a person. I'm a person."
Well, they personify a character. It don't matter.
Actually, exactly. To personify,
worker,
it means to
or whatever. It's
bring,
personification.
To personify means to bring a fiction to life, right?
Absolutely.
Through words.
I think they've taken, like, we speak very small now. Like, we use least amount of words. We don't have that flowery kind of language. Like, if you go back and listen to
we text talk.
Yeah, we scrunch everything down and abbreviate everything, and I think it's actually doing us a hell of a lot of detriment.
We personified gravity, and that's supposed to be science. Gravity does it all. Gravity is responsible for things falling. Gravity's personified.
And we also say, Paige, things like, sorry, Jimbo. We also say things, Paige, like if we don't know the man or woman that's standing there, but I'm telling you a story, Paige, right? I'm saying there was this person standing there, right? And they were, right? And I'll use that word person, right? Instead of man or woman, because I don't know them, right? So I'll immediately put this mask on them with that word person. However, if I know them, like, yeah, my friend was standing there, or, hey, I know a guy, I know a man, I know a woman, like, but if we don't know somebody, it's very common where we just go, you see all those, how to say this? Well, person is a singular term. So, there was a person walking down the road, right? We've said that, we've thought that, we've seen it. But see, we're, like you said, we're lazy with our language from even 100 years ago,
And another term for it is
lazy with our language. That's it.
Yeah, another term for it is imposterism.
Especially
people can be imposters.
Especially when a system might come in and hijack a language and define these words we commonly use, right? Like person, house, automobile, just shit like that, right?
Or
If
hijack
they can,
words like gay, and now it doesn't mean happy anymore.
Yeah,
Well,
hijack.
Homosexual is hijacked. I want
Didn't
the
they?
word back.
Didn't they hijack the word space?
sure,
I mean,
Absolutely.
what
Absolutely.
is space?
It's the air around you. The
area around you, exactly. The area around.
Yeah, the area around you.
Yeah.
Space.
We have more space. If you buy a house and you say, "Oh, we've got more space here,"
Garage space.
you're not talking about space. Talk about space.
Well, Ranty, look up space in Wikipedia, but click on the mathematical definition, not your common Wikipedia. It says disambiguation. Go here, go there. Look up space mathematics, right?
A new big backyard, more space for stuff.
You're gonna find the Big Bang right there.
All right.
Tell me when you get there.
Oh, you actually want me to do that, right? I thought
Yeah. Just check it out because I want you to read the first sentence, as long as they haven't changed it in the past 3 months.
So I'm in Wikipedia. You want me to look up space?
Space, but the mathematical disambiguation. Disambiguation.
The mathematical. Where would I see that? Let me share my screen. There you go.
Sadly, too, maths are considered a science, and they're not.
Well, just type in space, princely mathematics.
Space what? Sorry. Mathematics. You keep breaking up.
Parenthesis, the half globe there, the semi-globe. Mathematics, parenthesis.
Mathematics. There we go. Space mathematics. Okay.
Then, let me zoom in on you here. It says, in mathematics, space, what's it called? First sentence. Very first sentence.
Is a set, sometimes called a universe.
With what?
With some added structure.
Okay, cool. Does that not sound like something they're presenting us in a fiction form of reality? Right.
Hey, interesting stuff, how they hijack stuff. Especially when it's all terms to do with the removal of what you would naturally consider space to be.
Well, they need illegal math operations to prove everything, and it's all false. They have to divide by zero. Big Bang. Everything from nothing is just one example.
Wonder what. Listen, right? How do you think they formulated the idea to call aliens extraterrestrials? Right. Let's work it in reverse. Right.
Wait. Hold on. Before you move away from this, can I just read something real quick about space on this etymology website? Because this particular paragraph about the word space editorializes it in such a absurd way. I just want to read this really quick.
Okay.
It says this is what it's saying about space: to make of a certain extent, to range at set intervals, meaning to be in a state of drug-induced euphoria, as recorded from 1968. But then it says space cadet, eccentric person disconnected with reality, often implying an intimacy with hallucinogenic drugs, is a 1960s phrase, probably traceable to 1950s U.S. sci-fi television program Tom Corbett's Space Cadet, which was watched by many children who dreamed of growing up to be one and succeeded.
Wow.
They just editorialized the end of that to force in there that, by the way, space cadets are real. Space is real. This is all real because this show was watched by many children who dreamed of growing up to be one and succeeded.
Yeah.
Space needs infinity, in mathematics, infinity is not a number. The symbol's not a number. If you use it at the end, it's totally worthless and invalidates everything it did before. Big
According
equation, lots of letters, and infinity.
according to Wiki, space is a universe full of points with added structure.
It has to be finite.
Right, let's go back to my original question. Just was extraterrestrial. So if you're in the, I don't know, 1970s, mid 1970s, and you're trying to think of a film to come up with, and you want to rebrand it, you want to make it sound something special, something different. Why would you try to term the phrase extraterrestrial to mean an alien from a different planet? How would you have got to that leap of logic to use those two words?
I think historically languages have been controlled by a sort of elite. Our Inuit, their language was basically created by the Jesuits for them. The Gaigi Guga Naini Nuna Airi Ura, it didn't come from out of the blue. Russian, it has its earmarks of this influence. It's just, when things are done and made like, oh, it's all good and it becomes a popular saying, there's a reason, and it's because it's organized, it's structured, it's intentional. So yeah, why they plan to call it extraterrestrial, it's speculation, but there's a damn good reason whatever it was, and there was intent behind it.
Yeah, but I agree with that. But why choose those two words? I mean, what were they trying to superimpose? They were trying to superimpose their will on the population by taking two words and making them mean something that everyone could easily recognize, and that would be an alien from a distant world, different planet, right?
Yeah,
so
something to fear.
So what was
the wrath of God? Aliens.
So why did they choose the two words extraterrestrial to do that? What were they trying to bury and suppress firstly with the original meanings? That's what I'm trying to say. Why would they choose to hijack those two words to mean that? If it wasn't a direct threat to them to have the words extraterrestrial, and people understand that the term extraterrestrial actually meant more people living on terra firma, not in space, just more, more people in different lands.
Sort of like asking to look into the heart of evil. Why these people do what they do.
They'll say those extra lands are on the other planets, though. That's the problem. The terrestrial bit means, like Mars.
Yeah, but the globalists should ask themselves this too. I mean, if they're really looking for these answers, they should ask themselves why would extraterrestrial, which we've just brought up the definitions there, which are essentially talking about land here on terra firma. We're not talking about space and Mars and Jupiter and different planets. We're not talking about them. We're talking about here where we live. That was the language of the population. That's what people understood. Terrestrial, that's what we understood it as. We didn't understand it as anything else. So why did you hijack those terms? Why did whoever it was who did it, Warner Brothers or something like that, or somebody, Hollywood. Anyway, why did Hollywood suddenly want to take those two words and make a play on them and try to change people's opinion of those two words? You got to think yourself. You got to ask yourself that. Why would they do that? There's always an agenda behind these things, and as Jimbo said, the best way to do that is to actually, control the narratives, control the words, make them mean something you want them to mean.
I have an idea.
Go ahead.
They redirect the words, up is down, like they have their upside down world to mean extra, like to make you think extraterrestrial, extra-terre ground, meaning out there. Like there's nothing else here, you know? There's no more terra here. There's no more ground here. It's extra. It's up there.
Yeah, but if you also remember, it was E.T., the extraterrestrial. Now, that's important, you know, when you're talking about the film, the terminology they used. The extraterrestrial. So they're actually naming what the extraterrestrial means. So what they're saying is, this here is the extraterrestrial. This is the extraterrestrial, because this is what the film's called, E.T. the extraterrestrial. This is it. This is what the extraterrestrial is. So if you hear the word extraterrestrial again, you're now going to think the word extraterrestrial means an alien from a different planet, because we've told you that in the wording of the video of the film, E.T. the extraterrestrial. Yeah, we've now told you what it is. You know, so anytime you hear the it's the extraterrestrial, or what's extraterrestrial? Oh yeah. Well, we've been told what it was, because Hollywood told us that. This is what it is.
It really means it's our neighbors.
I would think so.
Our next door neighbors in the other pond. Why not?
It's very
It may all be one. It may all be one area, not little segments and little ponds. It's huge. These titans were huge. There's one, people laugh, but it was 1,200 miles tall. Its feet are in Mexico. Its face is in Portland. Its face is 230 miles across. Its hair lays down and forms part of the Cascadia Mountains. That titan was 1,200 miles tall. Where would he roam? There's the Badlands Guardian in Alberta, Canada. It's a native. It's petrified. If it stood up today, it'd be 5 miles tall. What can I say? I mean, I don't think it's other ponds. It's just whatever happened, happened.
How would you get a titan that big to roam? Even right? What was the size of the first one, Jimbo, that you said?
Well, they're all sizes, but the biggest one is what I call the West Coast Titan.
1,200
miles tall.
1,200 miles. 1,200 miles tall. So that would be probably 1.5 times the size of Britain. So there'd just be enough room, even if we had that, even if we used the moon map, let's say, there'd be just enough room for it to have a house, basically.
8 steps from one end of the earth to the other.
Yeah.
It's very easy. Bring up Google Earth.
Yeah, I know.
Zooming in on the West Coast and just look for the face and the bastion right eye and tell me what you see. I'm not dreaming. You can do it right now. It takes 2 minutes. Seeing is believing. You said you're visual.
Yeah.
Break it out.
Yeah, Jimbo. I'm just trying to. Okay, Jimbo, but I'm just trying to say that, on the proportions that you've given, and the land that we possibly know we may have, even if you use the moon thing, that would only be basically the land that we would know would be its house. It would just be like a bungalow, where it'd have the living room, kitchen, just to be able to lie down. There'd be no room for anything else. Yeah, there'd be no room for anything else.
More like the bathroom.
Well, the bathroom.
8 steps.
Really? Yeah.
So how do you think? So what was it, like a prison cell then for this?
I think it was all more open, had a different design and working. It's mechanical construction here.
But how did it have an existence or a life if it's only got 8 steps either direction?
It had more than that. This place extends out far, far, far beyond. I believe into the millions of miles beyond.
Okay, Ranty, what if that 26,000 cycle that you're talking about, 26,000 years, that extra land that he showed in his video, how the circle would, what if the circle is way bigger than that? What if that extra land that's being shown, possibly on the moon, is available right now, and that the circle that moves is actually way bigger than what he thought it was? What if what shows up on the moon changes over those years, however long it happens to be, and we just see what's available right now on the moon. Maybe that's one of the purposes of the moon, is to show us what's available right now.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
What if the Earth is way bigger? Then something like that could fit and move and live.
Look, if there could be an infinite space, why can't there be infinite land? If you want to think big, right?
I really wish you'd take 1 minute, Ranty, and go visual on us.
Yeah, I mean, as for the, I might do a show on that tomorrow, Jimbo. About these Titans, if you want to do that. I'll be happy to do that.
Just 2 minutes, just to get a taste of it.
Well, I have looked into them in the past, but it's always, the sizes and stuff. I mean, they're all different sizes. I mean, you got some that are, like if you've got this giant one that you're talking about, then there are other so-called Titans that then would just be like a fingernail in size compared to that one. It's like, so.
Absolutely.
So where do you draw the line? I mean.
I don't know where to draw the line. Scale, it blew my mind. Or I don't know, no more than you would or anyone else would. It goes beyond anybody's ability to even comprehend.
But isn't it?
Anyway, but it's huge.
Isn't it possible that the moon that we see would be a different moon that in other places they would see? They would see a different moon.
Yes, depending on the topography, yes.
Or partial moon, Like if you went to that, well, if you went to the other side of the map, let's say you went to the moon map and you went to the other side of the moon map, if you could get there, then you would see a different face of the moon, wouldn't you? Because you'd have more land to the bottom.
Well, you're looking at the bottom side of a reflection, so you can only see the bottom face ever.
Hey, Ranty, while you're at it, just in the background, not to interrupt your discussion there, would you go to that Etymology?
Yeah. And what are you looking for?
Type in phosphor. Phos.
Hold on.
If you
What's it called?
a blue laser on phosphor, you get a brilliant white laser light.
PHOR.
So let's just think also about, movie stars, right?
What is phosphor?
Sports star. Yeah. Well, let's let Ranty talk about it.
I've heard of like white phosphorus grenades, but that's just like video game stuff.
It's an element that does not. If you look up phosphorus, it's not. I'd have to re-look it up. But I'm just paraphrasing. It's not a natural element to the Earth.
Okay, so the morning star Lucifer, 1630, is from the Latin phosphorus, the morning star, literally light bringing, meaning anything phosphorescent.
So the light bringer, right? Lucifer is phosphor. So when Bob just said you've heard of white phosphorus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Jimbo said if you shine a blue laser at phosphor or phosphorus, it puts out this big, huge white light, right?
Exactly.
Good find there, Aaron, because phos literally means light in Greek.
Yes. Kind of looks like what I'm looking at right now outside, right?
Photo and photon.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But, Randy, read the first 5 words again slowly. Because I can't. I don't have it open.
The morning star Lucifer, 1630s. Yeah.
The morning star Lucifer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all these, when we live in this duality, right? We live in this duality. Everything's upside down, backwards, flipped inside out, twisted around, right? So when we think of Lucifer, right? We think of dark, contain no light, just no life, right? That's what we're kind of taught to think. But actually, from the 1600s, it was the shit that makes the crops grow every freaking morning.
It's Venus they refer to as the morning star, right, guys?
And that's it. You can look up morning star Venus. But at the same time, back then, how the hell would you know what was Venus or what was not? And it's right? And so I looked at that too, Montreal, but I would like to go to phosphor, the original word first, to see what it says.
Seems the astrolabes, these mechanical devices, knew pretty well, at least all the planets, retrogrades. I'm sure they knew the stars too.
So let's say we are moving through this ice age, right? We've been talking about, and you're waiting. Let's say we move into this ice age. I'm waiting for that thing to come up called sun. It gives heat. Jimbo, don't jump on me. But you know what I mean? It gives life. It gives you something you can see with it. You can work. You can take care of your family, right? And I don't think Venus does that.
Lumberjack brings up something interesting, actually. I found this out not so long back as well. But he says, do you know there was an ancient civilization, I think it was the Aborigine, that said there was no moon, and one day it just appeared. Yes, I do. So that would also... so is it, the idea that it was... if that's true, that they can recall that the idea that it was like an object that's out there, that's like a third the size of the Earth or a quarter size of the Earth, that's just sitting there, suddenly just appears, or is it something that happened? If it is some kind of reflection,
What if
or the dome was higher, and after the giants and titans fell, it was lowered.
Think about this, Jimbo. What if Project Blue Beam, right? You just said a blue laser shining at phosphorus creates a... What if Project Blue Beam has been with us this whole time, but it just came new into our, research, but possibly it kind of makes sense, right?
Well, I'm sure that the knowledge of what happens with phosphor and blue laser has been known for a long time. Now there are products that they want to sell us, like white laser lights, they call them. They're blue laser that shines on a mirror and hits phosphor, and then gets directed out as a beam of light, and it's a pure white laser light that yields from it. They've had it a long time. They just have products that they want to sell us now.
Sure. What I'm saying too is, like, why would they call it blue beam? Because you just reminded me, or actually taught me about blue beams hitting phosphor, right?
Yeah,
creating light. So.
These are used in making holograms and other stuff and that type of equipment too. So.
Interesting, huh? Moon out of nowhere with a reflection.
Just looking up.
I don't buy the reflection thing for some reason. It doesn't sit well with me.
So something weighing millions of tons moving over your head does? That we only ever see one side of?
I just can't see how it could be a perfect reflection all the time. And
did you see the magic mirror, or were you here that day?
Montreal.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Montreal. So it's refraction, not reflection. Okay.
Still think we're dealing with lights here.
SE, what if I can give you like a good reason for the moon based on creation?
I would love
being
to hear
a reflection. Okay, so the day when he showed me this thing, it kind of clicked in me. I was like, oh well, that would kind of complete, right? The everything you would need to know. So the sun will tell you direction, east west, right? So you know that. It also tells you time of day and time of year, okay, based on its location. Then you also are going to have the moon's cycles, which are going to tell you months and what's it called. Now, here's the only thing that's missing from all of this. How do you know where you are on Earth? And that's where I think that map comes in. If the moon is a reflection of the land, it's like a you are here dot where you can know where in the world you are. So if anybody just grabbed you and dropped you off somewhere, all you would have to do is look at the sun to find your direction, the stars, you look at the moon, you'd be like, oh, okay, it's this time of day, this time of year, and I'm right over here. Okay, I start going over here, I'll be back home.
Well, Well, I'd still rather use the stars that are above 15 degrees on the horizon than the sextant if it was that kind of navigation. And if I was somewhere on Earth and I locally and didn't really know where I was, I don't think I could geolocate myself safely and like using Google or Maps, Yahoo Maps or something, and really have a notion of where I was on the rock.
How about the stars? Are they reflections as well?
They're lights, whatever they are, and yeah, well, in the sense they all rotate simultaneously, synchronistically. They're all supposed to be different distances apart, which would mean they couldn't rotate above our heads and never change. So we wouldn't have star trails, coherent star trails. But with some lasers, when the light scatters, it produces multiple lights. So it's possible sometimes that we may see several different lights that we think are stars or an array of stars, but they could be from one single source.
Look, I'm not saying I know what they are, and I don't for a minute believe that they're balls of fire and gas and in a vacuum like they say. But I'm not prepared to say they're reflections, or I'm sure the moon is a reflection. I don't know. That's just me.
Well, the thing about light, it has to be generated. It's generated locally and by a process. The process involves energy and matter. And for us to see lights, they have to be sustained. So the likelihood of there being thousands of lights being sustained above our heads, or one that's behaving sort of like a laser being multiplied a few times, or which is more likely? I don't know. I think the simpler is the more likely.
I prefer to say I don't know.
I don't know, but if I had to guess, I'd go with local light, and some of them are repeated. They're just scattered.
Look, it's fascinating. For example, take the planet they say is Jupiter, right? It's supposed to be a million miles away, right? But yet I can zoom in with my P900 and capture the moons, so-called moons. It just looks like 4, 5 lights to me. See, that doesn't make sense, right?
I like people who can catch things in perfect focus in the foreground and in the background that are hundreds of thousands of miles apart.
Shout out to 150 plus people watching this evening.
You have like what you call depth of field and depth of focus. When you focus on something that's close to you, what's in the background goes blurry. When you focus farther away, what's in the foreground goes blurry. There are cameras that can, locally anyway, adapt to a few yards and dozens of yards and whatever, and actually focus on someone close and a background and keep them both in focus. But often when you're doing photography, you want some stuff to go out of focus in the background. If it's like a bunch of lilies with someone standing in front of it, it makes a more pastel type of effect, and a nice background to have it a bit blurred. Highlights the. But anyway, the way cameras work, usually if you're focusing in one area far away, you can't focus on what's in front, close to you. If you're focusing on what's close to you, what's in the background blurs.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, most everybody's aware of that aspect of camera. The point is zooming into something that's so far away, that I find that
guy that was on, he said that wasn't true. He was saying, "Oh, I know heaps about photography," and there was some words he used to say that no, you should be able to focus on the moon and then move it over to a star and be able to have it stay in focus. And I'm thinking, no way, that's not how it works.
No, he has no clue what he's talking about.
Doesn't like flat Earth.
I focused on both the moon and a star, and trust me, it's completely different.
Shout out to Lumberjack, who says it's an interesting panel with a super chat of 19.99. Thank you very much, Lumberjack, for the super chat there. It is an interesting panel. Plenty to talk about.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump back to common law since we've already been to space and back.
No.
So,
well, that's
no more law.
You know that word persona, right? That word persona, right? You know, it means a mask, an outfit. If you look through the etymology of it, it means involved in a play, right? A play or some sort of act.
Portraying.
Yeah, portray, kind of an act, right? Like an act of Congress, whatever the fuck you want to say. But you can, in English, we can change the word play to ploy. Super simple, right? Just add a little whoop, little comma right on the end of the O, and it becomes an A, right? So, have you or have people been played? And what I mean is employed, right? What better way to make people wear a mask and to step into that role of person, outfitted? You got to wear your badge, you got to wear your suit, you got to wear all this stuff, but you immediately become subject to whether it's corporation or whoever you're, well, to the legal system. Basically, you become subject to that, but the legal system gives you civil rights, employee rights, employee rights. They give you all these rights,
No, they don't give you rights. They give you benefits and privileges.
Sure.
That's the whole
they
point.
call them rights. Yeah, you're right. They call them rights. You're right. You are correct. They call them, all these normal
it's like
words
saying,
that we use.
I have freedom, but in America you actually only have liberty. Liberty is a completely different thing to freedom. Like, believe me when I say our freedom is locked into our language. The way we say things, what we say, what we call ourselves.
Paige, I think you have
our
a problem with
freedom
your
is
mic
completely.
or you're muted.
I can hear her. Can you hear her, Jimbo?
Sorry, my stupid phone.
No, we heard you
keeps
fine.
Going black
We heard
and I
you.
can't find the mute button.
We heard you fine.
Oh, okay.
No, it's just Discord.
And I firmly believe that's why they encourage us to shorten our words and use words for, one word for a different meaning that means something else and isn't really what it means originally. I'm sure that's why they encourage us, because our freedom is definitely locked into our language.
Yeah, without looking it up, let's just all on the panel here say, what is a ploy, right? Just on our basic knowledge. A ploy, we can we think of some sort of devious act or devious manipulation of some sort, right? But yet we're presented with all these employers.
Employment.
Right? Employers, employment. God, man, it's a like I said the other night, it's a beautiful system because they fucking got it down.
Troops are deployed.
Yeah, deployed because they are wholly they're part and parcel, wholly part of the system, right? As an employee, like Paige says, you can walk out, you can quit. But in the military, you can't just quit. You go AWOL, right? We need to look that word up.
Absent without leave.
Without leave.
Yeah. Without proper leave, exactly.
Without liberties.
Without liberties, right? Liberties.
Yeah. People will say to me, oh, that's ridiculous. How could saying a word have that much effect? Well, that's what our entire law system is based on. The words you use and what they mean. Like, my goodness, that's how they've trapped us all.
Well, it's paradigms too. They not only go forward, but they go backwards too, like dog being God backwards, live being evil backwards. It's all a game. It's a word game.
Yeah, they definitely like playing games.
It's intentional, like, to confuse people sometimes, you know. It's like in the old days, I guess, like the one old play, Pirates of Penzance, you know. They do a word play where the pirate king is looking for sympathy, and he had found out that General Stanley was an orphan. Well, he gets caught, and he's begging and pleading that he's an orphan child. Well, he's not pronouncing orphan really. He's saying often as in frequently, but it's not very clear. General Stanley starts asking, well, are you an orphan child as in frequently, or an orphan as in the fatherless child? And the guy wouldn't give him a straight answer, just tried to keep confusing him. Well, that's what English is about. And that's from the time of, like, not Gilbert and Sullivan. Yeah, Gilbert and Sullivan and their comic operas.
Here in the U.S., any act of law or most acts are called resolutions, right? Resolutions, resolutions. We need to really rethink this. You know, we're in power now. We need to. How do we solidify, salute? How do we get all these people back under our control? And they call it an act. Right? Okay.
We also have arbitration.
Yep. Arbitration, exactly. And so why not first let the folks have the I'll call it voluntary, to put on a mask, right? So that we all put on this mask when we're ignorant, right? We don't know what's going on. We never research government. We never research anything. And we just play along with the act, right? We're just engaged in, like Shakespeare. Okay? The world is a stage. We are merely players. That's it.
Right. I'm going to round up early tonight, guys. Got 150 watching. Do you want to do final thoughts? Let's go down the list. Start with you, Aaron.
Did you have a chance to check out Jeranisms?
I haven't. No, I haven't yet. I'm going to watch it tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. Did Montreal tell you about it?
He was interviewing some guy. I did see 10 minutes of it. So he had a channel with like 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah. Well, I tuned in at about 40 minutes in, and they were using Jaron was using John D. The wind turbines with France in the background to show, seeing too far. So go check it out. It's actually disappointing because the guy just dismisses it and makes up certain excuses or whatever. But I just thought
that was a joke.
Cool. Yeah,
the guy had
it was a joke.
Well, it was.
Yeah. So that's my final thoughts. Anybody go check out Jeranism and just see kind of how folks' thought process there are when you're presented calmly, politely with information. And,
he asked him, let me give you one fast example. He asked the guy, when they show the mountain in Europe that could only be seen once a year when the sun is directly behind it?
Canagoo, yeah.
Canagoo, right. So they asked the guy, okay, what about this? Because he was not believing anything, okay, I'll show you this far distance. And you know what he said? Well, that's a shadow. It's projected from the bottom, and it's a shadow. And like Jaren almost went loony on the guy. It was funny.
The guy nearly rage quit.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
putting words in my mouth.
Yeah,
This conversation's over.
Yeah, he threatened to leave.
It sounds really good. Let me just shout out Lumberjack, who's given another super chat. He says, make sure you'll all check out Globebusters this Sunday with a special guest, Gleam, talking ether. No trolls, you will be silenced, and a great show, Ranty. Thank you very much, Lumberjack, for again smashing that super chat. It is really, really going to help out. Thank you. Yes.
Cheers, Lumberjack. Ranty, I didn't finish up yet. I would.
No, that's fine.
Anybody listening here, if you're interested in how to say this, why we think what we think, check out a simple website called Etymology and just start researching words, right? And you'll see the history of where they came from, how it changed, and how it's used now, right? And it's a super eye-opening experience. Like Paige said, we're controlled by the language if we don't ever look into it, right? And so it's just a great way to start if you want to look up household, look up gee whiz, look up anything.
Yeah.
Where do these words come from? You know what I mean? So thanks, Randy.
Okay, no worries. The other Aaron, are you around? No, guess not. Jimbo?
Well, it was fun today and great show. And I hope you get a chance to look at some of these petrified beings that got posted. Literally, there are hundreds, and there's just no way of not seeing what's there.
Okay, I'll have a look at that tomorrow, actually. I'll do a show on that tomorrow.
Thank you, Sean.
Okay. Paige, fan thoughts, please.
Yeah, I just recommend checking out Crow 777 and even the second hour that he has up on his website. It's like $7 a month, and it's not recurring. You can just have one month, because the second hour is actually way better than the first. But the keys to our cage are hidden in our language, and like Faith said, you need to know what these words mean. If you don't know what they mean and you keep using them, then the system is going to treat you as if you understand what those words mean, and they'll treat you the way they say those words mean. So we need to stop using the words they're forcing us to use. So yeah, good luck to everyone.
Cheers, Paige. Rakia Life?
Yeah, thanks for the show. It made my massage even better.
Awesome. Cheers, mate. Rob Keane? Is he busy? Is he working still? Rob, are you still there?
I want to know what this Rakia guy does. He's always playing poker, getting massages.
He's living the life. He's living the life, man. He's living the life.
I pour concrete really early, and then I work the rest of the day, and then I enjoy.
Absolutely. Hard work.
SE Montreal, final thoughts there, please.
Yes, sir. Another good show. Aaron, he levels stuff. That's what Rakia does. Just kidding around. Yeah, great show. We learned a lot of stuff, and it's interesting, this language thing. Thank you, Paige and Aaron. We've got to look into that.
Right.
My pleasure.
Right, okay. Right, guys, that was awesome. I enjoyed that show again. Short and sweet one tonight, 2.5 hours, not my normal 3 or 4, but, you know, I'm a bit tired tonight, so we'll recuperate and we'll do a good show tomorrow. We'll do a good stream tomorrow. I do plan on doing a lot of different subjects tomorrow, so it's going to be, you know, maybe talking about the giants of the past. Who knows where we'll end up? You know, we'll just have a bit of a brainstorming, talk about all kinds of the old fables and things like that. I think it'll be an interesting show, something I'm really interested in. Maybe even talk about different realms, perhaps. Who knows? There's a whole bunch of things that we could just speculate on and talk upon. If anybody's got any ideas as well, you know, leave them in the discussion afterwards. You know, leave a link or something, or tell me to look into something, and I'll present it tomorrow. I will do that. Right. Thank you, guys. 150 odd watching, pretty awesome. Starting to get some of the viewers back. It seems that the moderation that I've got in right now is doing wonders. It's allowing people to speak freely without fear of being trolled, which is what I'm after. I'm after just a nice civil chat. So thank you, Bob and Lumberjack, for cleaning up the chat. Be back tomorrow, 10 p.m. UK time again tomorrow. And take care, look after yourselves, and I'll see you all in the next one.